Howdy team, in this episode I'm going to talk to you about selling without selling, why it's important and why you need to be taking it into consideration. And now where this has come from is I did a previous episode all focused around life insurance sales and making sales in a weird mortgage market, shall we say, where people are coming and inquiring to you wanting to take out a mortgage, but more often than not the lenders aren't willing to lend. But this message applies to anybody who is in a service-based business who offers their products and services, personal trainers, mortgage brokers, accountants, solicitors, will writers, IFAs. Selling without selling is what I'm going to talk to you about today and why it's so important. As I say, it came off of the back of the message that I did yesterday. I had a few people direct message me and ask sort of further insights and further questions around what I was talking about in relation to actually having a more holistic view of your client. And I think that's when the client comes to you and they land on your desk, but there's a step before that related to your lead generation where you're selling without selling. You're bringing value into the world and you're actually building authority that makes you become the logical choice. And I like to call it attraction-based marketing. It's so much easier. Imagine if you went fishing one day and you threw the rod out into the lake, it's like you normally do. And rather than having to sit there bearing in mind I've never been fishing, rather than having to sit there for 4 hours waiting to try and catch some teeny tiny little fish, all of a sudden the fish just started coming around to you, wanting to take your bait and take your hook, and all of a sudden you go home that day catching 100 fish. I don't know whether fishermen will find that enjoying or not, but hopefully that analogy kind of makes sense. Let me know if it did, because if it didn't, then I'll stop doing analogies, because I'm absolutely clueless. The whole idea of selling without selling is coming back to your lead generation. And the reason why I think this is really important is because I've been speaking to a lot of mortgage brokers who have been spending a lot of time pitching to first-time buyers. And the first-time buyers are naturally at the 90 to 95% and struggling to be able to get it because of the deposit. And now is a time to pivot. It's a time to change. It's a time to relook at your strategy. It's a time to potentially improve your marketing and try different things. One of my friends and clients and previous mentors, Daniel Priestley, says you get what you pitch for. And I didn't really realize this because in 2016, maybe 17, I was pitching and talking about all the problems that people have with adverse credit and trying to help people with defaults and CCJs and everything else as a means to get them to come to me when they didn't have those issues. But guess what? They came to me with those issues because the messaging was wrong. And I think it is a time where your marketing needs to pivot and your marketing needs to change. But also the idea of selling without selling is when you build a personal brand around a particular subject, when you understand who your ideal client is, and it's always that thing of, do I niche? A niche could be a job title. It could be an industry. It could be a particular area. Sarah's one of my newest advisors and she wants to focus on equestrian as an area. Or it could be a demographic. Supermarkets work on demographics. And when you understand who you're talking to and you build your personal brand as the person who can solve their problems, because people buy people, you can then gain their attention and then you can start to get them into your world. And it's much like planting a seed and waiting for the tree to grow. The more you're consistent, the more you do it, the compound effect takes place and more people start coming to you. Attraction-based marketing. When you first start doing this, often it can be a little bit disheartening because you do have to look at it as a long game. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. But the more you are able to put yourself out there, the more you're able to answer the most common questions that these people are answering, the more you do content, the more you make your website sing to those types of people so that when they land on your website or your social media channel, they go, oh my God, I'm in the right place. This person knows what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, how I am, what's going on in my life at this present time. That immediate connection and that immediate, that immediate way in which you resonate with somebody is what's actually going to make it possible for you to become the logical choice over absolutely everybody else. And this is where it links into that whole thing around your pitching and presentation, in the sense of the content marketing that you're doing. People don't buy, what you do, they buy why you do it. People don't buy problems, they buy solutions. They want to they want to understand the process of how you go from, so if you have this problem of no leads and you need more leads, that's your goal and your outcome. Here's the 4-step process to be able to go through that in order to be able to get it. You need to build your personal brand, and you need to know what you stand for, what you stand against, and what you do. You need to identify the customer that you realistically want to talk to for at least the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Ideally, maybe even have an overarching umbrella and then have subsidiaries of that particular overarching niche. And then you need to understand all the different methods in getting attention, because everybody's on social media, but how many are really generating leads from it and actually bringing consistent leads into the business from a variety of different sources? Facebook groups, property events, lead magnets, website, SEO, Google local business, all these different angles and aspects. And then how do you take all those people from here and get them into your database? Because I think this is the biggest learning that I've had is, while social media have your clients, you don't own them. And this is the tricky point, is you need to get them from social media into your own world so that you can then actually email them consistently and build a bigger relationship. A couple of my mentors run a £20 million a year business, over 100 odd staff, including outsourcers. Pre this event, 800-900 property events, training events. I'm one of their trainers on social media. But the database is massive. Facebook ads and the database is what's really actually driving the business forward. And I think if you look at most of the top businesses in their sector, they're collecting data on people, they're building relationships, they're giving them things to do through the email automations, whether it's different little gifts, whether it's a quiz that they can do to categorize themselves. And actually the hard work goes into that email database side of things. And it's vital really that you understand, that kind of those 4-step motions to take them from where they are in terms of problem through to where they are in solution. Because if you want to go and look up on Google ZMOT, ZMOT, 0 moments of truth, there was buying history done, and it's like going shopping with me. If ever you want to come and do that, I wouldn't recommend it. It's like going shopping with a woman. I go and look in a shop and I find the first pair of jeans or shorts that I really, really like, and I probably go and try on another 20 pairs in another 10 shops, and then I go back and buy the first ones. It's one of those things that Google did the buying habits of people who make decisions online, and they went back through the search history, and actually the amount of research, the amount of testimonial viewing, the amount of websites that they're looking at, pulling information in. We're in an information and attention age, and being able to provide people with information in order to be able to gain their attention and stand out from the crowd is getting harder and harder and harder. But there's going to be a limited window to do it. They're now bringing in paid methods on social media for advertisers, shall we say, to make sure that you can keep getting your message in front of people. Supporter programs, £4 a month, and you give more valuable content to your supporters. But for you, no matter where you are in your journey, I didn't want to use social media because it was a means to an end. I didn't want to be putting myself out there. In 2015, I rarely did, but I realized that it was a necessary evil, and it was one of the best business decisions that I have ever made. Having not done any marketing for the first 10 years of business, now having utilized social media, produced lots of video, had a consistent social media manager. He started as a social media apprentice. From leads generated through social media, we're now at about 1.1 million in sales since 2016. And that's with virtually no marketing spend. It's just crazy when you do it consistently, you're building up this value pot. And over time, more and more people know who you are, and you get recommendations from people that you've never done business with. You become an expert in your particular area. And this is where it's vital from that point of view of thinking about what you realistically want, because first-time buyers, moving home, remortgaging, serviced accommodation, buy-to-let, commercial, bridging, development, I've probably missed out, HMOs. That's 9 different strategies that you potentially could become an expert in. We haven't even gone into high net worth or anything along those lines. Expats, there's 11. Then you take into account different job titles: self-employed, employed, contractors, different industries underneath those banners, and utilizing Facebook ads to be able to absolutely target down to the finite person that you want to track. Because you can narrow the search to say, right, I want to look at all people with this number 1 interest, but actually I also want them to have this number 2 interest. And when you start to do that, I only started using Facebook ads on a really low budget this year, purely because my team has grown. I haven't been doing much mortgage content for over 12 months now, because I've got over 100 mortgage videos out there, and we've just got little Facebook video view ads running on them all the time to big audiences, so they're always being watched and seen, which is why I've been able to do so much content to try and help you with your marketing from the experience and the lessons that I've learned. And I've spent hundreds of thousands on my own personal development to learn this stuff, and I absolutely love teaching, coaching, training, mentoring, providing you with value, because I know how hard it is, and I know lead generation is one of the most difficult things. Getting the clients to come to you that you realistically are going to be resonating with, that are realistically going to buy from you, is so important. And I don't know what you think about this. Let me know what you do think. Are you pitching to the right people now? Is your message actually targeting the client that you really want to deal with? And if it isn't, then you need to make a little bit of a change. And it's an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to do. I say it's an easy thing to do. You need to get clear in terms of who your ideal customer is, first of all. And once you've gone through that process of understanding who they are, then it gives you the ability to start putting messaging out. There's a 3-step process of market, message, media. Know who the market is that you're talking to, understand the message that you want to put in front of them, and then think about the best media in being able to capture them. And that's just a marketing tact. You then got various different ones in terms of AIDA: attention, interest, desire, action. Most people sit at the attention phase at the top, but in marketing we generally try and talk to the action takers at the bottom, which is the smallest part of the funnel, because you got to think about, in a buying cycle, if you think about the person who wants to buy your product today, looking at that ZMOT, what was their thought processes 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months prior to them actually wanting to take action? When you think about moving, you start going on Rightmove. You start looking at places you want to live in the town that you're in. There's various different things that you start to do, and it's starting to think earlier in your pitching process to be able to get them to come to you. So if you really want to sell without selling, then you need to start making sure that your marketing is doing that for you. And over time, you will definitely get more results. Over time, you will have a database and a business that is going to be supplying you with an abundance of leads that's going to keep you moving forward. So if you have any questions on this, then feel free to comment in. Do you understand the principle of building a personal brand, and what fears or frustrations do you have around that? Do you know who your ideal client is that you want to target? Comment in and let me know. Do you know realistically how to gain their best attention? Is it going to be video? Is it going to be written? Is it going to be audio? Which channels do you need to do it on? Should you be doing it on Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube? These are all considerations when thinking about your ideal customer. And have you got a plan on how to convert them once you gain their attention from all of the free marketing, getting them closer to you, exchanging something to give them, to gain their email address and to gain their phone number, so you can then build a deeper connection with them. Hope that gives you something to think about. It's a thought process, as I say, that came off of the back of a previous episode around life insurance sales and maximizing every opportunity. And the reason why the two go hand in hand is because it comes back to that messaging. If you want to be getting people to think about the mortgage, but also the insurance, then you need to put the two together in your marketing and in your pitching. And that will have a bigger impact on the results, and it will make the conversations when they come to you much easier. Because if you prioritize it in your messaging and in your marketing and in your conversations, then you're selling without selling, because they already know why they need it and that you're the person to sell it to them. Have a fantastic day. Hope this has been useful. Let me know if it has. Comment in, connect with me on all socials, and remember, now's the time to become pro.